Welcome to Wine for Normal People, the podcast for people who like wine, but not the snobbery that goes with it. I'm your host, Elizabeth Schneider, author of the Wine for Normal People book and certified wine dork. This show is brought to you by my sponsor, Wine Access, the place to discover your next favorite bottle. With allocated wines and incredible values, plus free shipping on orders of $150 or more, you can't go wrong with Wine Access. Check out their amazing selection of curated wines from all over the globe at competitive prices. Don't forget to sign up for their daily emails, too. Go to wineaccess.com/WFNP and listen in the middle of the show for more details. Well, here we are, 600 episodes of Wine for Normal People. I can't believe that this podcast that started with just a handful of listeners, like just my mom really, has grown to reach people in 60 countries around the world and has millions and millions of listens on the episodes. I'm humbled and grateful to you for listening, for reading the book, for learning with me, for gracefully accepting the changes over the years. And I'm especially grateful to my sponsors, my guests, my travel partners. Thank you, Heather and Beppe, over the last 15 years who have supported the show and made this all possible. But most of all, as I say every week, I'm grateful to the patrons, the people who directly support the work that I do week after week and who have become my friends and who have allowed me to join them on their journeys into wine. So I'm boring, and you all know about me. So for this episode, I asked the patrons if anyone wanted to share their story on how they got their start in wine. Everyone has a moment or a period of time when the wine bug seems to bite, and I had more than 30 people volunteer to be on the show. I culled it down to 9. The rest of everyone will hopefully share in a patron hangout that'll be recorded and released to the patron community. These people are in all age ranges and from various parts of the U.S. No international patrons volunteered, in spite of the fact that about 30% of you are listening from outside the U.S. Some of these people are very close friends of mine. Some are people I just spoke to for the first time when we recorded. Some are relatively new listeners. Others have been with me since the beginning. Each story is so unique and fun. Please make sure you listen to them all. The last story is with one of my very first listeners, one of my dear friends. We discussed some of the more philosophical things about wine and the show to wrap it up. I owe a debt of gratitude to all these brave people who I definitely did not compensate for doing this, nor for saying all the nice things they said. I had no idea they were going to say any of this nice stuff. Greg from Colorado, Alyssa from Los Angeles, California, Tim from New Jersey, Linda from Maryland, Elizabeth from New York City, Tina from Massachusetts, Lyle from Silicon Valley, California, Shayna from Pennsylvania, and Claudette from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I will let them take it away. You'll hear a brief pause between each vignette. I really hope you'll laugh, you'll nod your head, and enjoy this wonderful celebration of wine and the Wine for Normal People community. Cheers to you, and thank you so much for allowing me to do 600 episodes of this podcast. First up, the super enthusiastic, positive, wonderful Greg from Colorado. Okay, Greg, welcome to episode 600.
Good to be here. 600. What
Right?
an accomplishment.
I would love for you to talk about how you got into wine. What was your aha moment and what was special for you? And does it still get you excited today, that whatever that thing was?
Yes, it does.
Good.
And it was funny because, like everybody, I think, I had tried cheap jug wine and I'd been to Europe with my buddies and, fell in love with good coffee over there and good bread. But all we tried over there was that yucky box wine that you would get at the grocery stores. And so I never really had good wine, Elizabeth, until I was about 36 years old. I got elected to the state legislature.
Wow.
So I'm a brand new state representative representing all of Eastern Colorado, and go up to the big house in the big city and country bumpkins up there. And I get taken out to dinner by lobbyists, of course, and other interest groups. And they take us to these really nice restaurants in Denver, and they poured this stuff into these beautiful glasses at the table, and I tasted it and I said, what is this nectar of the gods? And why did it take me this long to find this stuff? At a really nice restaurant. And that was it. That was when I had really had my aha moment.
What
I
was
like
it?
this stuff. And it was a Cabernet. It was a big cab, but it was really well done. It was really good. Then I introduced my lovely wife, Angela, to really good wine. And, or maybe it was another one of those dinner things where they did some pairings for us. And we really, both of us got into it then. And for my birthday, I think when I turned 41, she got me a wine course at Metro State University in Denver. And it's just been a love affair ever since then for me with the good stuff. Now, don't give me the generic beer equivalent of wine. I want the good stuff that tastes the way it's supposed to taste. And I don't even have a favorite variety.
That's
I
so
just like
great.
I just like everything that is good and tastes the way it's supposed to taste. So over the years, we've started getting into different makers and going to places when we travel, and we've done a lot of travel. We've been to all 50 states together now, and we almost always incorporate wine tours where we're traveling. So when I did the Finger Lakes region, I listened to your podcast from the Finger Lakes, or like two or three.
Yeah, there's a bunch
And
of them. Yep.
yeah, and so I stopped at Boundary Breaks and
So great.
Sheldrake and joined their clubs, and
Yep.
now I just love the wines that they make because they're wines that are perfect for them in that area.
You also drink European wines. You're talking a lot about American wine, but I want to say you are willing to try everything. I guess the reason that I'm saying this is because some people might get the idea that you fell in love with this big cab and that's where you stopped. I know so many people like that. So do you. All they're doing is nap a cab and that's it. And they just stop there. So it's not just America that you've stopped at. You've pushed all those borders. And so I need to give you credit for that.
All of them. And, thanks to you, I got introduced to Benanti in
Oh,
Sicily, and we did a
so
wine
good.
lunch there, and I spent a ridiculous amount of money having
Sorry.
their Etna Rosa shipped home, the two different ones, and a white from there that I love their wines.
Great
Um,
wines.
our daughter was also stationed in the military. Her husband's in the military, so they were up in Vicenza, which is the Veneto region, and they're into wine as well. The Veneto region, there is a Soave Classico from Rocco Sveva.
Yep.
It's a co-op. It might be my absolute favorite white wine of all time. And Elizabeth, it's €3 a bottle.
Right. But it doesn't
Oh,
matter. There's different perspectives. I've seen you change over the years. I've known you for a while now. You're not afraid to try anything, and you're also not judgmental about the way that something could come to you. And I really like that. I think that's a really great attitude. And I think that maybe it has something to do with how you got into wine, which is that you entered this new environment as somebody who knew nothing about it. And you were like,
nothing.
let me go.
This is really good. And how can I get more of this? And then you start finding it. And like I said, that Suave Classico for €3. Unbelievable. We do get some Pinots from the Willamette Valley. They're like $65 a bottle. But the Sheldrake wine that I get is club price is $18, and I just love that stuff. It's my everyday wine.
That's a big lesson from somebody who was a state senator who had access to lots of fancy wines. You could have gone the other way and just said, I only drink these fancy Cabernets, but you didn't do that. I was very happy that you volunteered to do this because you're a really good example of somebody who you expanded yourself and you still do it. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
The art and science of making whatever the year gave you into the best that you can make for that year is what winemaking is really all about. Once you figure that out as a wine drinker, wine lover, it just opens up all the avenues, and everything is new and exciting and interesting. And I feel fortunate. I'm probably glad I didn't learn it earlier because I'd have been too dumb when I was 25, but I love it now.
You come to wine often last because you're looking for something. And once it resonates with you, it's nature and it changes and it's dynamic and it doesn't have to be the same. It is a lifetime of wonderful things, and it takes you to places you never thought you'd go.
What a brilliant observation, Elizabeth, that this, especially for these new generations, they like authenticity, they like experience. That's exactly what we're talking about with good wine. Is getting authenticity, getting experience, going to a location and finding out what they do.
Greg, this was so great. Thank you. I love the passion. You and I both share this passion. Thank you so much for doing this.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Elizabeth.
I have Alyssa, who is an amazing wine diva. She knows so much. She has studied, she has done tons of tastings and classes and trips, and she is super knowledgeable about wine, but wasn't always. Alyssa, can you tell us how you got into wine or whatever your aha moment was?
It's so funny. I was thinking about this and wishing that I had like the bottle or the moment. And I'm searching my brain, and it might just be getting older, or it might just be that I didn't have exactly that one. But
There's
think
not always one moment. Sometimes it's just like the evolution. And I think that it's like sometimes it's the slow burn, which I think is great also. So tell us about your slow burn.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think for me, moving to California after school was a big thing. It's a place of wine. There's so much wine drinking and so many trips to do. You move to LA, we're taking a day trip to Santa Barbara, we're taking a day trip so there was a lot of that. And I was lucky that one of my best friends from college is a winemaker in Napa. And I had gone with her on a trip to New Zealand. She did a harvest there. So like I'd gotten some exposure to it over time. And so there was just sort of consistent interest, and my friends have always been wine drinkers, but we were not super educated wine drinkers, except for this friend who didn't live in LA. But it was COVID. I mean, which sounds sort of like depressing, like, oh, I was alone in my house drinking wine.
This is everybody's story, by the way. I just want you to know, you're going to hear a thread of this. Like, everyone found me during COVID. Everyone, or like whatever, yeah.
I thought I was so original, but no, I like, it was COVID, and it was sort of being like, okay, like, you know, drink it a little more than I was, and also let's drink more interesting things. What else is there? And it really was finding your podcast. I really did not know much at all. I had very cursory information about anything related to wine. I found the podcast, and I am kind of a voracious learner and sort of a completist. So when I get into something, I go very deep, and I listen to like all the episodes, and I started reading books, and then it was the classes and the trip, and I just was so in. And as you well know, and as everyone who listens to this podcast knows, it is, I want to say addictive, but I don't mean it in that sense. But the knowledge and like the community and all of it was so fun to dive into.
Well, that is awesome. What is the thing you're most proud of from the early days versus now that you feel like, okay, I got that now? I did not know that before, but I've got that now.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. But I think the thing that I'm really proud of is when I go out to dinner with my friends, like the wine list is handed to me. And that is very fun for me. And that when I do see my friend who lives in Napa, and we're going to get together for her 40th birthday in a few weeks, like she's like, dude, I'm bringing great wine. This is what we're drinking. This is what we're doing. And so like I'm in the inner circle of wine consultation. People always want to drink what I'm drinking or want me to tell them about what I'm drinking. And that's really fun. And I think the other thing is that I really like bringing people together around wine. And that's something that I do a lot, bringing friends together who are interested in it, who want to learn a little more, being the person who's like, guys, we're getting together to drink these interesting bottles. This is what we're doing. Like the community around it is really fun.
And you're a perfect person to do it because you're social and kind, and you're not a snob, and you can educate people to the level that they are at. I think that that's so perfect for who you are as a person. But I bet you could also bring a bottle or two to your friend's 40th birthday that she hasn't heard of.
I know.
Are you doing that?
I may be calling you to find out what's
I think we might be able to take care of some of that on a future trip. We might be able to give you some stuff. That is true. Right? Yes, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about that.
Great.
Well, Alyssa, this is so great. I love having so many different perspectives. And I think that yours of being a unifier and setting an example for your friends and being somebody who dives 100 feet deep into it and seeks to understand it just for the sake of knowledge, not because you want to be better than anybody else or do anything like that. It's just a joy and pleasure to have you in this community. And I really appreciate you doing this. You are a very busy lady, so I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. I'm grateful for you and for this community all the time.
Thank you so, so much. And I will see you very soon in person. Tim Pitson holds the record for taking more Wine for Normal People classes than anybody else. I really appreciate you, Tim. You are all in. The community would not be the same without you. You are awesome. You post on the chat. You do everything. You're like a model citizen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to find out, because we have never had this conversation, how you got into wine.
I've been drinking wine a while, but what you would expect from someone from where I'm from, it was all California cabs and Merlots.
Well, where are you from? Say where you're from.
New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey, and probably die here, but
not without taking a few trips out of it, though, right?
I've been drinking that for years, and I wanted to learn some more. So I did try a couple things along the way, and to be honest, the style of education just kind of made me feel stupid. During COVID, I came across your podcast and immediately hooked. So I went back and listened to the back catalog, started listening to the back catalog while listening to the new stuff. So it got a little confusing, but, made it through it. One of the things I was interested in trying was white wines because I was never really a white wine fan. I've had Chardonnays and Sauv Blancs and stuff like that. And to be honest, till this day, I can still take them or leave them. I'll drink them, but, they're just not my thing. So I came across your Riesling episode, one of your early ones, and I go, Now, my memory of Riesling was from the 80s. I had vacationed in Germany a couple of times, and back then, I don't know if it was more the style back then, but it was very sweet.
Yep. It was definitely sweeter, mostly because of climate change, actually, that it's gotten drier. The acidity was so high, the grapes weren't exactly ripe, so they added unfermented grape juice, the Suisse Reserve, back in to balance it. But yes, that was the style. But it depended on the vintage. But usually, there was a lot more sweet wine then.
Yeah. So, as I said, I listened. I think it was Riesling that might have been Alsace related to. I don't remember. It was a while ago. So I was at the wine store and I saw a Trimbach, one of their basic Rieslings. It was like $12. I said, well, if I don't like it, it's no great loss. So I bought it and then I had it with some, I think it was chicken pad thai or something like that. I like Thai food. And I go, wow, this is a little different than I remember. It's got, Trimbach tends to be medium bodied. Some of the Alsace tend to be full-bodied, but you had the citrus notes, the peach, minerality, and this is the first time I ever experienced the petrol notes, which I really like. I go, wow. It was kind of revelatory at the time, so it kind of got me interested in Riesling in general, but Alsace in particular.
Did you try more Alsace whites after that?
Yeah, I like the Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Gewürztraminer. Yeah, I basically like all of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do, but just that style I really enjoy.
Well, you know that the Trimbach Riesling was the wine that got me into wine too. So I am 100% in your camp. Yeah, we both had that experience. So you were already into wine, and that was my first oh my gosh, what is this? But it is a kind of wine where you taste it and you go, this is not wine. This is something else besides all of the other wines that I've had before. What is this? This is what everybody gets excited about. It's really interesting that you were into wine for so long, but your real journey into wine started maybe at that moment, right?
Exactly. I wanted to expand my horizons. I was kind of getting bored. Like to this day, I like Napa Cabs and Sonoma Cabs, but not all the time. I think you've mentioned it on your podcast. As you get older, your taste buds change, and that's a lot of wine to drink all the time.
Yeah.
So I'd like it once in a while with a nice steak or hamburger or something like that, but not as an every night wine.
Time, place, and manner, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Just matters what you're going to have the food with. And also, I think price makes a big difference because as our Tavel King, you didn't mention that. Let's talk about your Tavel King and then we will close it down. But you discovered Tavel and now you in the community are the Tavel King.
I guess so, but this was after my Riesling phase, and I still drink a lot of Riesling, just for the record. I don't know, might have had a class or something on rosé, and I like rosés, but they're not a wine you think about too much, porch, summer sipper, things like that. But I came across Tavel, and I go, wow, this has got some body, it's got some tannin, it's got some structure, and it goes with just about anything I want to eat, and I just love it.
And you're responsible for all of the sales of Tavel in your area since you gobbled it up.
I was. I think one year I cornered the market. So, but because they had a big sale, it was normally like $18. It was on sale for $9. I go, well, I'm going to buy whatever I can find.
Oh, don't worry. Everyone in the community was jealous of you. Do you remember everybody like dogging on you for that? We were all like, oh my gosh, Tim, can we come over? Where is it? Where is it? Like people in like, on the border of New Jersey were like, come on, I'm going to come in and get it. Anyway, well, I just want to thank you, Tim, because you make my job a lot more fun. And I love having you in class. I'm so glad we had a chance to meet in New York. We will do it again. We got to get a New Jersey Patreon group going because I can come up there anytime.
But I want to thank you too and congratulate you for your 600th episode. You've built quite a community. A lot of good people, a lot of nice people, fun.
We built the community because without you and others who were willing to participate and see that people are really cool and that there aren't just jerks in wine, we wouldn't have it. So I give all credit to you guys also for taking the ball and running with it. You are fantastic, Tim. Thank you for being on episode 600.
Hey, thank you.
So now we have Linda. Linda has been to Italy with me. She has hung out with me in DC. She is a voracious learner. And Linda, I would like you to tell us how you got into wine or what your aha moment was in wine.
Well, I think I'm in some ways either a Johnny come lately or an old dog who's trying to learn new tricks, because I don't feel like I have enough time to learn everything there is to know about wine. But I was lucky to be a GI brat. My dad was in the Air Force, so I went to high school in England. My real first experience was, first of all, in England, when I'd go to the plays, you drink sherry during the intermissions, which I'm still fond of. But also, we went to Germany for the debate team, and I drank Riesling. So that was my first experience. It wasn't until I went to graduate school. I went to Texas A&M University, and at 10:30 in the morning, they had a wine tasting class.
Nice.
One of the restaurants decided we had to be out of there by lunchtime, so we did a class at 10:30 in the morning, non-credit, obviously. All we drank was European wines. Quite frankly, this was right around the time of Judgment of Paris. That's how old I am.
Oh, stop.
And so we did not have California wines on the menu. I didn't remember too much about the class, but what I really did remember from this class is the last class, because we were eating crackers, that's it. The last class, they brought out cheese, and they brought out blue cheese. So they made us taste everything. And I thought blue cheese was vile. But then they poured the port, and it was like, oh my God, I love port. And it just went so beautifully with blue cheese. Now, I wish I could say that I then went on to discover all these different wines, and I really didn't. I was in Texas. And in the 80s and 90s, and still probably, in Texas, you're beer and margaritas, basically. And if you had wine, you had either Chardonnay or you had Merlot, or a generic red or white wine. So I really didn't seek out wine very much at all. Really, it wasn't until I moved to the DMV area, in Maryland, that I started to go to wineries.
For people that don't know, DC, Maryland, Virginia. So that's the Washington, DC metro area.
And basically, we moved here in 98, and I started to go on Saturdays. My husband and I, who doesn't really drink wine, would go to look at all the wineries. And what you get is an opportunity to try a lot of different types of wine. This is what a Chardonnay tastes like. This is what a Cab. And that's different than going into a restaurant and just picking a wine and just slurping it down. And so I started to learn a little bit about different grapes. And then there was a wine restaurant in this area, Iron Bridge Winery, and they had Wine University. And they used to give you a couple of different wines with little appetizers, and they'd give a little lecture about it, and then you'd eat your dinner. Well, it was one of these where it was all whites from France, which, of course, I only went because I was with my friends. Because you know me, I'm not fond of whites at all.
I know. Well, you are now.
Well, fondness is a different. I'm fond of reds. I like whites. But in this class, one of them I thought was absolutely vile. And actually, it was a Sancerre. I just thought it was terrible.
The acidity.
Right, the acidity. And so after we finished our lecture, I ordered mussels because they make phenomenal mussels at this restaurant. And I was working my way through the 4 glasses, and then all of a sudden there was nothing left but that darn last glass, and I was thirsty. It was, again, like the angels started to sing, like the port and the blue cheese. it just was wonderful. And I'm still now, though I do prefer New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, that's the perfect pairing. And so that was really where I got the idea that food is for wine and wine is for food, and you shouldn't be trying to do them independently. And that's about the time I started listening to your podcast, too.
It all came together.
It all started to come together because I kind of started to move beyond just pick what's on the menu, because you either had pick this red or white, or the list was so daunting you didn't know where to start.
Right.
But it was with you that I've started to really understand different regions, what to expect, and grapes. The other thing is I can't tell you how many times I've listened to your podcasts on what to drink with barbecue, what to drink with my sushi, what to drink with the different foods, because I've learned that that is really, really the difference in enjoying wines and just being indifferent to them, is to have food with wine, but also the opportunity to go places like going to the wineries and try different grapes, but also different years. It just shocks me how different the wines are. These two experiences of food makes the wine, and wine makes the food, and the ability to go places and try different wines in a beautiful location, no pressure. You're not faced with a list of wines, or if you are, you get little tastes that nobody cares if you spit it out and you just move on, is really what I think helps people learn about wine. I feel still like I'm catching up. I'm very sorry I didn't start this process earlier, especially since I'm a chemist and I really could have gone in a direction with my career. I do have more time and money now than I would have when I was 20, but I really think that this is the kind of experience that people should have earlier. You can tell from what I was referencing, I've been around a long time, but I haven't really gotten to enjoy and experience wine as much as I wish I had earlier, but it's still okay.
You're here now, and since I have known you, your palate has expanded 20-fold. The questions that you ask and the things that you know now are so amazing. So I commend you for really taking something that could have just been fun and you can just drink it and not think about it into a really serious hobby where you think you don't know a lot, but none of us do. No. Honestly, I've been doing this a long time and I still feel like I know nothing. That's the beauty of wine. We never feel like we know enough, and we don't, because to your point, vintage and new producers and new techniques and climate change and everything. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your input. And I know that I will see you very, very soon. And I really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
I hope you're enjoying these vignettes from our patrons. If you want to become part of the Patreon community, go to patreon.com/winefornormalpeople, patreon.com/winefornormalpeople. And if you want to take a class with me, another great way to get involved in the community, winefornormalpeople.com/classes. And thanks also for supporting my sponsor, Wine Access. This episode is brought to you by Wine Access. If you like discovering great wine, but you don't always know where to start, just like a lot of people on this show, Wine Access is a really easy place to explore. They work directly with winemakers and vineyards and domains all around the world. So you're not just getting random bottles, you're getting wines that have been carefully sourced. They actually taste like the place they're from. And what I like about that site is that it's not overwhelming. You can browse by style, region, or what you're in the mood for. They've got detailed notes that make it feel approachable. They also do a lot of limited releases and NDA wines, and they have smaller producers that you probably won't find at your local shop. Check it out today, wineaccess.com/WFNP, to let them know that you found out about them through me and start getting interesting wines that you can't get locally. Check it out today, wineaccess.com/WFNP. And now let's get back to the show. Elizabeth, I'm thrilled to have you be on the show because you are still in your 20s. You've listened to the podcast for a long time, and I would love to hear your aha moment, how you got into wine.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's so exciting to be here. Again, I've listened to like it's a weekly ritual where I go and listen to the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Super cool to actually be on the other side now. So my story is a little different because I actually didn't get into wine from drinking it. It was from reading about it. But I grew up in a family that is not a big drinking family. My dad doesn't drink at all, actually. And then my mom gets drunk off like half a glass of wine. So not good candidates for wine drinkers. And so I had just never really been exposed to the world of wine. Like I had the whole college experience where, you drink like brandy out of a bag. And then that was all I really knew about wine. After college, I was the last year to graduate before the pandemic. I graduated in 2019. I was living in New York City during the pandemic, and I mean, it was crazy. The whole city completely shut down. I went from like working 5 days a week in an office to being holed up in a tiny little apartment that I shared with 2 other girls. So we decided to let our lease go. I moved back home with my parents, and for some reason, they get like the subscription of like Wine Enthusiast or whatever. It's just delivered to their house. And I was bored one day and like read through it. And I just thought it was interesting, like the way they described wines. It was around the holidays, so they had like gift recommendations for people, not just wine, but books also. And one of the books, it was like all those Psalms, Wine Simple. And I was a big foodie at the time. I think living in New York City, almost everyone is. But so Aldo Somm is like the lead wine director of Le Baradon, which is a world-renowned, famous 3 Michelin star restaurant in the city. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I just asked for the book for Christmas, read through it, and just thought it was so interesting. I just didn't know like anything about wine, that there were like, oh, the same grape is grown in Burgundy and also in California. Like I felt that was really cool, and you can taste the differences between those. So it was through reading that then I was like, okay, let me go get some wines and see what this is about. So I dragged my mom to the wine store with me. In the book, it actually recommends an intro, like tell them you want a case of 6 whites and 6 reds, and here's like some examples of kind of classic things you should ask for. It was the pandemic, so we weren't going out to like restaurants or anything. So it became like a nightly ritual where we would like open one of the bottles. I would take a picture of it and taste and write down what I thought. And through that, I really discovered like, oh, okay, I can actually taste the differences between these different wines. That's really cool. And started to figure out like what I liked and what I didn't like.
That's amazing. Where has that journey taken you since then? Have you done any wine travel or, I mean, again, you're so young. What do your friends think? You're obviously a real enthusiast.
Well, it's funny. I think at the beginning when I was 23 at the time, I didn't really have a lot of friends that were into wine, but now I actually have more. Some of them I've met through being interested in wine, but other people are like people that were not interested back then. But now I think that we're almost entering our 30s. Like I'm noticing more and more people that I know like are starting to get interested.
There's only so many cocktails you can have before you start getting into wine. And this is a funny thing in the wine industry that they're like, young people don't drink. And it's like, I didn't drink until I was 27, wine. I didn't drink wine seriously or really get into it until I was in my late 20s.
Yeah. And I think especially I'm back in the city now, especially in New York City, which is such a like, it's like a natural progression. If you like going out to restaurants, you like eating food, like there's so many great wine programs in New York. Wine shops. I feel like wine bars here, like every other week, there's like a new wine bar popping up. So definitely like New York City is a great place to be. It's easy to become interested in wine. There's so much happening around it. One of the first things I did like moving back to the city was I found a really good wine store that I've also been super loyal to over the past 5 or so years. I joined their monthly wine club that they have, and they also do weekly tastings every Saturday that are free. So I go to a lot of those things, and that's really like opened up my eye to things I maybe wouldn't have picked up otherwise. I want to start sewing for the WSET level 2. I'm hoping to do that eventually. Right now I'm planning a wedding and working
congratulations.
Thank you. Travel wine. So my fiance is actually from Luxembourg.
Oh, cool.
Which is it's like kind of the middle of a great wine region.
It's right next to Mosel. In fact, a lot of the people in Mosel say that they're more like Luxembourg than they are like Germany. I don't know if that's true, but they say it.
Yeah, we go to visit his family. They still lives there a lot. And so we've made a few like little day trips out of that. We went to Dr. Lucen in the Moselle one time, and then we did a few wineries in Alsace another time.
The Mosel's one of the most amazing places I've ever been. The fact that people farm
it was
that
really
stuff.
cool. And the tasting that they did, they brought out like the actual the soil.
Yeah,
the
the slate.
different,
right.
the slate. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But seeing like the different colors of the slate, and that they explain that to you as you tasted the wines, which was also really cool because it's all Riesling, but they tasted really different depending on where it was grown.
Your story's so interesting because it just speaks to the fact that you're probably a really intellectually curious person. And so you could have applied this to anything, but the fact that it was wine is our gain, both in the Wine for Normal People community and I think also just in the wine community at large. Keep going. If I can do anything for you, I'm here for you. I hope you know
so
that.
much.
And thank you for being on the show and giving us this awesome perspective. I was just so happy to see you sign up and step up for episode 600.
Wine's a super cool thing to be a nerd about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much. I have Tina. She has been a patron for a very long time. I will admit she's also a personal friend of mine. And Tina, I'm really happy to have you here. But the thing that we are here to discuss is, how did you get into wine?
I think of my aha moment rather frequently, actually, which may be a little weird. But even as a kid, I knew there was something magical and there were a lot of secrets around wine. And I knew that because there was a lot of weird equipment in my father's basement. Weird smells and fruit flies. And what he produced was fascinating, but it tasted to me awful. And the only commercial wine available, I think, had Carl Rossi on the label and it had a handle on the jug. So I really didn't have an opportunity to taste those secrets and find out the magic. And then at 15, I had another little glimpse. I went to Europe with my French teacher, and I was only 15. She allowed me little sips, and she did drill into me that food and wine are of a place.
Yep.
And she also liked to talk a lot about the different regions of France and the geography. So I at least knew that Burgundy wasn't just the color of my pants.
Which I did not know when I started wine, I'll tell you that.
And I knew that Burgundy didn't have to be red wine.
Well, that's huge.
That much I knew. But the moment came when I was getting ready at the age of 22 to go on a trip back to France with my friend and fellow patron, Nancy.
Yay.
Yay, Nancy. And we thought we have to do homework to get ready for this trip. So I bought the only French wine I could find in our little town of Michigan, which was a Louis Jadot Beaujolais Village. And
hey, that's pretty good. At least it wasn't a Nouveau that was old, right?
Correct. I knew that much. And we bought the only French cheese we could really find, which was Gruyere.
Delicious.
Absolutely delicious. So we're sitting in Nancy's bedroom on the floor, and we have in our hands, we probably didn't even have real plates up there. And we slice up the cheese and we pour some wine and we're eating the cheese. We take a sip of the wine and in complete silence, we slowly looked up at each other, realizing that something magical had just happened, that we discovered maybe not why it's magic, but what the magic was.
Right.
And we both said to each other, what just happened here? And we decided and realized that the cheese actually changed in our mouths as we took a sip of the wine. And that was nothing that we could have had explained to us. It was nothing that we expected. And it was such a lovely way to spend the afternoon with my friend and a great introduction to our trip. And it really started us in this world that we realized that there was something here that together, these two things were delicious and wonderful and unique. And to this day, 40 some odd years later, Nancy and I still like to talk about food and wine together. So that is my aha moment.
So my follow-up question to that is, how did the trip to France go? Were you more mindful of the food and wine together when you went? And you were very young, by the way, for an aha moment. So I applaud you for that.
We did pay attention to what we were ordering. We still didn't know very much, but at least we tried to link the region to what we were trying to find on the menu. So it was very rudimentary, but at least we were trying to read the menu and have some kind of thought process associated with it.
You were mindful, which I think
Yes.
that's one of the first most important steps in a wine journey, is to start to notice things, whether it be, I started to notice in my glass that, yeah, remember someone said this is like green apple. It is like green apple. I get that now. Okay. And then later on, you get other things in wine that maybe you didn't get before. And that happens throughout your entire wine life. But that idea that at 22, you had this great moment, which sets you up for the rest of your life. And you are a phenomenal cook and you really work hard on pairing your food and wine. This is really a wonderful story because it speaks to how all of this became so important in your life. I wish more people would have these great moments in their friends' bedrooms, or rooms or apartments or wherever.
And it has set us up for so many wonderful travels and experiences together.
These formative moments when you start to notice things, whether it happens when you're 20 or 35 or 45 or 55, it's 65, it doesn't matter. Once you get it, it's like, wow.
It was wow. And in retrospect, I also have come to understand that my French teacher also took us to Moet Chandon. And I remember that it was demi-sec.
Yep.
But when I got home for my high school graduation, my parents got me a bottle, but it was dry.
Dry, of course.
And I couldn't understand why I didn't like it and why it tasted different. And now I know.
And honestly, maybe it would have gone better with French fries or potato chips, and then you would have been happy with it. Again,
That's
the
right.
pairing, right? Think about that. Or maybe even the Gruyere that you had when you were 22 years later. So it is really interesting, I think, that you still remember that, but now you love dry wines. So it's just a funny thing. But you're okay with sweet too, right?
Oh, definitely. I love dessert wine. Vinsanto, oh yeah.
Yeah, that also opened you up in a different way. I think maybe having that experience early on and not judging it, not thinking, oh, sweet wine is gross or bad. That probably was important too.
Mm-hmm.
Tina, thank you so much for being on. This was really fun. What a great aha moment. And thank you so much for being my friend and being a patron. You're the best. Lyle Crocodile, one of my faves. Thank you for joining me. You have been a loyal listener forever. It is so amazing.
It has been a long time. It's nice.
It is nice, and we know each other. We met pretty early on, like in Sonoma.
Sonoma Underground.
Yeah, many years. I think it was like 2017?
Yeah.
2018? Something like that. It was
something
a long
like
time
that,
ago.
yeah.
So I don't think I've ever asked you this. How did you get into wine? Or what was your aha moment, or what was your big wine?
I think the big aha moment for me was not even 3 blocks away, a wine bar opened up in downtown Mountain View, and it was so close to the house. We went over there, and the cool thing, this is how a wine bar should be, because they had like 40 or 50 bottles by the glass available. The owner was educated in wine. She was super passionate about wine. She was kind of like you, where she was like, I want you to learn about wine, but I'm not going to make it all geeky and complicated. And she hired people that were experienced with wine. I was already kind of getting interested in wine, but I was like afraid of old world wines, like French wines. I don't even understand what the labels say.
It's really hard, especially when you're first getting in. I remember I was in Boston. I say this in the book, and I've told this story before, but you go into wine shops and they're like, so what do you think? And you're like, I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to think? What do you want me to think? Like, what the even is this? I don't even know. Like, I like, what is this? Is this a grape, a place? I don't even know. And it was so much pressure.
Yeah. And so that was the nice thing. There was no pressure. They asked you questions about what you like. They gave you tastes so you can kind of experience it to decide if that's something you wanted. And, kind of steered you from there. So they were educated. It got me kind of interested in learning more about wine. And they opened around 2010, 2011. So sometime shortly after that, and I think your podcast started in 2012?
2011.
2011.
January 2011, yeah. And we should mention that you are in tech. You knew what a podcast was.
Yeah, and there weren't as many in the podcast app, but there was an app dedicated to it, so it was great.
You found me, and you were like, What is this Long Island girl doing? I'm from Jersey.
Well,
I
I
actually
love
get her
that.
accent.
I know. So first of all, of course, the name it's approachable. I don't know what these French wines are, and I want to learn. I'm getting all this information about wine from the wine bar, and I want to know more. And you were engaging in your podcast. You're from the tri-state area where I grew up as well, and yeah, just connected with all that.
Well, that's really nice. I really do think a lot of the podcast listeners are people who understand my personality, because there's probably an equal number who are like, oh, I don't like that. But that's us.
Yeah, and you
That's our
mentioned it.
lives, right? That's our lives
Yeah,
as tri-state area people, are that people either love us or hate us. We're not really milk
yeah.
toast kind of. You either get it or you don't get it at all.
Yeah, but I don't know how you can not get it. I mean, you're super experienced and knowledgeable.
It's a personality thing. So this has taken you to different countries, to different regions. What's the
Yes.
most exciting thing you feel like you've gotten out of this journey, which is now almost, we could say, decades long?
Yeah, it has been. Well, I mean, talking about wine, I think probably the most exciting thing is not being afraid to try any kind of wine. When I started out, I was mostly like, I'm just going to do red wines from California because that's what I know. That's what's here. And, Galt was kind of doing white wines, and that's what we were doing. So I started learning more about wines. I started exploring. It's like I could try things. And that actually expanded out to food too. It's you trying different wines, you try different food, what goes well, what works. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I am so grateful to you for being loyal and for doing episode 600. It is very fitting because you really are one of the early listeners. I love that I have gotten to know you and Galt over the years, and I adore you.
Yeah, that's been awesome.
It has been awesome. It really has been. Well, thank you for your
And
friendship, and thank you for everything, and thank you for sharing your story.
yes, congratulations.
Thank you. We are welcoming Shayna, and she is going to tell us her story of how she got into wine. So, Shayna, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I have always drank wine. I just always preferred it over beer or cocktails, maybe excluding those years in college where it was a lot cheaper. But I never really appreciated it. So I was your typical go to the grocery store, find whatever's on the shelves. I think I started out with Barefoot, probably worked my way up to some fat bastard.
Now,
and that was kind of it.
Was the selection done on label? Was it done on price?
Often,
was it done on
time.
Percentage of discount, which is another popular one?
Yeah, probably all of the above, I would say. Label, definitely, though. And I was actually thinking about the wines that I tend to drink now. And, I am still kind of a sucker for a good label. Okay, so during the pandemic, I'm in Pennsylvania. So we already have horrible liquor laws here.
Yep.
But things had kind of changed, and we were able to get home delivery, like DTC kind of opened up here. And so I joined Wink. And so I was getting these Wink deliveries, and they were just kind of underwhelming, if I'm being honest. I don't know if that's appropriate to say on the show, but
Absolutely.
I didn't really love them. But, I was like, okay. And then I had all this wine because I would rack up these credits. And I moved during that time period. And during that time period, a really cool tasting room opened up. It's called Turk's Head Wines. They have a winery in California, and then they bring it back here to the tasting room to sell it. So I went in there, and I'm like looking at the wines, and I don't think I ever bought a bottle of wine that was over $25 in my life. But here I am in this little bottle shop that just opened with the nicest woman ever working there. And I'm like, I have to buy something. So I just grabbed a bottle. I don't even think I looked at it. And their winemaker at the time was Kieran Robinson. Their wines were in the process of aging. Their first vintage was 2022. So they were not selling their Turk's Head wines yet, but they had Kieran Robinson's wines available for purchase. And I had not heard anything about Kieran.
Which is funny because you must have not listened to the podcast yet. He's been on the show twice, right? And he's pretty good. We've been a participant in events that I've done and stuff like that. So yes, I know Kieran and Christy well.
I've gone back and listened, but at the time, no, I was not on the level of wine obsession that I am now. So I was not listening to podcasts or anything. I don't even know if I was listening to podcasts, period. So I bought a bottle, and it was a Syrah. It's the Trois Cent Neuf Syrah from Kieran Robinson Wine. So that was his original label.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever had a wine with any kind of age on it before, right? I was just buying like whatever I got. And I don't think I even knew like what the word vintage meant. So I come home and I'm like, oh God, I just spent $75 or $65 on a bottle of wine. I'm dying. I'm like, I'm going to open this. I think I had it with a cheesesteak, which by the way, an aged Syrah with a Philadelphia cheesesteak, a good one, with Cooper Sharp cheese is one of the best pairings you can have. It's
you heard
so
it
good.
here first. All right. Good
It's
to know.
so delicious. I was completely hooked. So I went back. I bought a couple more bottles. I got a bottle for my really good friend. She was turning 40 at the time. Gave it to her. She had the exact same experience. Couldn't even believe it. Loved the wine. And then I'm coming back. I'm Googling, like, who is Kieran Robinson? But that really changed everything because from there, I joke that it was my epiphany wine. What I realized was, oh my gosh, this is delicious.
Right.
Wine should be delicious. I came back, started reading books. I listened to your book before I actually joined the Patreon group, or before all of that, I listened to your book on Audible. So I spent a lot of time with you driving in my car and started listening to the podcast. I read the Wine Bible. That's when my husband knew this was a serious obsession because I read the Wine Bible front to back. And I started down this journey of like, okay, now I want to understand, like, what do I like? And why do I find this so fascinating? And started with California wines, realized I could drink California wine for the rest of my life because there's so much. And so I had to branch out. It's just a lot of fun. And I love trying new wines because I feel like it's like you're traveling through your glass, right?
Yes, absolutely. I want to ask you a question about the epiphany moment. Before you had that moment, what did you think about the high prices of wine? Did you think it was a bunch of crap that people were charging that?
What I know now compared to what I knew then, it's pretty amazing, actually. I don't know that I even thought or was aware, other than champagne. I knew champagne was expensive. And honestly, I never drank it.
Yeah,
because it was expensive, right? I didn't even look. I didn't know anything about like California wine. Actually, I did because one time I'm an attorney. When I started practicing law, and my law firm was involved in a major litigation. We were a construction law firm. We represented the construction manager in the Lincoln financial field when they were building that. Obviously, anytime there's something like that, major litigation. They were so pleased with the firm's work. I had just started, like 2 weeks in, 26 years old. They sent us, all the attorneys, a bottle of Opus One.
Nice.
Yes. Wait, no, not nice, because I had no idea what it was. And my friends and I went out to dinner. We were drinking at dinner, and I brought the bottle of Opus One to a BYOB in Philadelphia, and we didn't open it because none of us knew what it was.
Oh, wow.
So the after party continued, and we started opening all the bottles. It was like the 5th bottle we opened, and I don't even know what it was like. So anyway, that's how little of an appreciation I had for good, high, expensive quality wines. To me, it was free. Someone gave it.
Right.
Anyway, to answer your question, I think I had major sticker shock at the time when I bought that bottle of wine. But then I learned what really goes into a really good bottle of wine. It's art, it's science, it's history, it's geography, good farming practices, the cost associated with doing that. There are some wines that I think are overpriced and don't provide real value, but during the week, I'll grab something a little less expensive, maybe from some of the places where you can get good value. But I don't have a problem spending upwards of $100 for something that I think that the time, the effort, the labor that went into it is deserving of the price that it commands, I guess. So I have a very different feeling about it now.
I'm so excited to hear that you sort of made this jump just by walking into a wine shop and it changed everything for you. Shayna, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for being a patron and for being so loyal and taking the classes and all that too.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I have known Claudette for, I feel like, for an eternity. I mean, how long, we have known each other forever.
Since the beginning, pretty much. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much since the beginning, and formed this incredible friendship. And I am so glad that you agreed to do this. Wait, let me just say, I'm so glad that you allowed me to pressure you into doing this.
You certainly did. Yes, my pleasure.
Okay, Claudette, tell me how you got into wine, or whether there was like some big moment where you were like, yes, I remember that. And that was the wine or.
Okay. I think I would go along with the first question that then leads into the second comment, right? So I would say along the way, I had my beginnings like every other person you've spoken to, I'm sure, with the giving my boyfriend $5 and because he was legal and I wasn't.
Okay, no one has said that, so I love this story already.
There you go.
Yes.
And I said, can you get me some wine with this? He said, I don't know. I drink beer. He came with 2 bottles of wine and change. And I thought, wine is great. This is fantastic. I can do this. And it was Boone's Farm in Strawberry Hill or whatever. And I paid for that immediately. And then I wasn't interested so much after the next morning for a very long time. I then traveled in Europe several times and did go to wineries, and it was lost on me, honestly. I was in Alsace, and I only knew to ask for red or white. And when I went to a restaurant, I read my travel books, and it said just ask for the local wine. So that's all I asked for. So I never knew what it was. And then about 25 years ago, I was helping at a charity auction for the hospital where I worked in D.C. And there was one silent auction item that no one bid on. And it was a tasting at Mondavi in California. Nobody bid on it because we were in D.C. and Mondavi was 3,000 miles away. But I felt bad for Robert Mondavi that he would find out that nobody wanted his event because I actually thought that's how that worked. I wrote $35. That's the minimum bid. And I got it. And I thought, oh, at least I went to charity. I'm never going to get there. I did. I went with a friend and I said, oh, we're in California. We could do this. What I didn't realize for my $35 was that I had a day with a wine educator opening bottles that were a couple of $100.
Oh my gosh.
With my Boone's Farm history, and it brought us through, introduced us to everyone. And I was taking it in, but it was quite a bit of imposter syndrome because it was over my head. And I just didn't want to embarrass myself. So sometimes I'd get a little lost in it. We stepped outside again and I said, thank God. So I was getting ready to go. I thought, oh, I made it through without a terrible gaffe. And she said, no, now it's time for lunch, and brought us to the middle of the vineyard at Robert Mondavi's table. He was not there, thank God. He was still alive, but he was not there. He wouldn't have lasted much longer had he been there. And his chef came out with courses and bottles of wine. And I thought, I wish I could do it again. But I did get an appreciation. And it was the first time I'd had a pairing. And that totally made sense to me. And it's still to this day something that when people say, well, I don't drink wine, I'm like, you can like it or hate it. But try this with this dish. Try my glass. I did learn a lot. It was helpful, and that opened the door more than a bottle. 2008, I was living in the Arlington, Virginia area, and so on the weekends, I would go to the vineyards. And I love Virginia wine now, but 20 years ago, you had to kiss a lot of frogs to find what worked for me. I'm not going to say it was good. It wasn't, and I was lucky enough to befriend a couple that owned a winery, and I would go there every weekend, and they did tastings. So it was 5 wines, 5 little bits of food. Again, made total sense to me. We got to be such good friends that we would go out to dinner afterwards, and I hung on their every word. And so I'd sit with a glass, and I'd be like, yeah. Do you like this red that I chose? I taste vanilla. I smell vanilla. That's all I could smell, and I would hang on to that. The owner said, yeah, I smell vanilla. I said, oh, good. Then I'm on target. She says, yeah, but I find it obnoxious. And I was like, oh, that's not a thing? She says, only if it is for you. So I started putting pieces together. And then there was one time they couldn't figure out a descriptor for their wine. So they sat me down with their little aroma bottles. So they came out. I said, this tastes like licorice to me. It's like, it's anise. You're exactly right. And I thought, drop the mic. I get it. This makes sense. It's delicious. Then I was truly in. And then in all that time, not to embarrass you, not that you could be embarrassed, but
I can be embarrassed. It's hard, but I couldn't be.
I'll try. No, so now I've signed on to your podcast. Now I want a wine podcast. And I'm looking through the possibilities. Listen to a couple, 3 drunk guys, three.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Remember that one. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, 2 housewives drinking,
Uh-uh.
And then I saw Wine for Normal People. I didn't know you, but I thought, well, I'm normal. Spending the time at the vineyards in the fall and then hearing your descriptors that made sense and they were words I could use and they were familiar and it was a perfect match. And if I were not speaking to you right now, if I were speaking to 2 drunk guys or, 2 drunk housewives, I would say the same thing. I would say that, listening to something like Wine for Normal People is what made sense to me. It was my level. It wasn't too precious. It was just right.
But Claudette, in fairness to you, you're such an intellectually curious person. That is one of my favorite things about you. And I think the way that I talk about wine is pretty regular, but the concepts aren't easy. And I think a lot of it is just like presentation. And I think sometimes people listen to this show and they think, well, that's like not normal. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to translate really hard things for smart people who will get them. And I'm trying to make it easier to understand. That doesn't mean that I can dumb down a concept. I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that was also
No, you
for
don't.
you important, right? Like, is that
It is.
I always say I only have one skill in the world, and it's taking really hard things and making them easy.
It's funny that you said that because I do have a very curious mind. I love watching the sausage being made. I was a pediatric nurse, and that's what I enjoy doing is taking hard concepts and teaching families. So that is in my wheelhouse, and that's probably why the style of this podcast appealed to me. What I ended up liking about wine, because as I tell my neighbors, as I'm asking if they'll feed my cat while I'm gone and walk my dog, and they'll say, where are you going? And I'll say, a wine trip to Italy. And say, oh, I thought you did that already. Oh, wine, you really like wine. And the way you always explained it is it's not about drinking when we go, and people don't get drunk. It's a whole story about culture and agriculture and history and economies and wars and it's
Just
everything.
like humans.
That's what I love
it's
about
humans and food and
yes.
everything. Yes.
Yes. That's what I like about it because it's world and life in a bottle, in a concept amongst like-minded people, which is always a plus.
And I think, especially in this community, we have something very special in wine. This community isn't for everybody, but it is for pretty awesome people, in my opinion, including you. Claudette, thank you so much for doing this. I know I pressured you into it, but I think it's really important for people to understand something as small as, let me just bid on this for $35.
Exactly.
Just now triggered something for you, which has now not only been a passion for you, but then has also expanded your network. And, you've made all these amazing friends and, and you and I have such an amazing relationship. Like there's just so many things that wine can open. It opens so many doors. So is this episode 600? Can you believe this?
Imagine.
Right?
I remember when they were, 13 and 16 and yeah,
it's crazy. But in this episode 600, what I would like to impress upon people is that we are all in this wonderful thing together. And no matter how you enter it, it is beautiful. And I think that we're all a community, whether I've met you or not met you or whatever, you're part of this.
To your point, the $35 that went to charity opened all of this up. And I would say to anyone, between this and getting a dog is how you get through life. There you go.
Mic drop. That is awesome,
love it.
Claudette.
Bingo.
Thank you so much. You're amazing.
All right, bud. Love you.
Love you too. There's no better way to close the show than that. The patrons have said it all. So with that, this has been another episode of Wine for Normal People. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.